Welcome to the Takedown with Brian and Jesse. The topics for today's episodes are going to be immigration, specifically as it pertains to the shooting of the National Guardsman recently. We're going to discuss the rising cost of living and what is not being done about it. We're going to talk about the ongoing feud with Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then briefly about an update on the Epstein files. Let's begin. Jesse, there?
I am here.
You're here. We got a we got a lot going on. It's been a busy last couple of weeks.
It has been busy. Yeah,
My
small
God.
boom this Saturday today, so it will
Yeah,
continue to be busy.
that's we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah.
So let's start with immigration. That's like the thing right now. Immigration is on the minds of pretty much everybody. I know it's on my mind. And we are watching so deportations have been going on now for some time. But why immigration is on my mind currently is because we're seeing a lot of people who were not born here doing bad shit here. And I'm sure you've watched the news. So an Afghan illegal is living in Washington, drove to DC and shot two National Guardsmen. One of them, I believe, died. And this is after a lot of other things have been occurring. And so I know we talked about this offline a little bit where I said I think I'm getting to the point where I'm anti like legal immigration too. I want the pendulum to swing so far back on this in the other direction to counteract how far it's swung one way. And I know you had some thoughts on that, so I figured I'd just see what you thought.
Yeah. So I don't want to dwell too much on the specific example you offered. Intriguingly, though, I am, yeah, I did run into like a conspiracy theory on that front earlier this morning. That was, it sounds outwardly idiotic to me. And it's just one of those things where I wonder how many people will bite off on it. Um, the idea that Israel was somehow masterminding the assassination of a National Guard person to stoke like anti Muslim rhetoric in the U.S. Again, that's like I can't imagine how hard you'd have to bend your head around to make that make sense. But it's floating around. I'm curious to see how many people bite.
I
The
saw that too. I also saw like a CIA angle
Yeah,
for
it just seems baffling to me, right? So like the idea, like so, let's just assume for a minute that somewhere in like a dark room, somebody's going, yeah, let's assassinate a National Guards member to stoke anti-Muslim rhetoric in the United States. Why would you pick one? Like, like you Googled a specific individual? Like, how does that make any sense? You would just go a National Guard member, right? And I mean, even that seems like blatantly idiotic in that the risk reward ratio there is so bad, right? You're like, man, we're losing the leftists in the US. What we got to do is have somebody kill a National Guard member and then risk losing the right when somebody, inevitably finds out that this was an op. I don't know, man. I have trouble tracking how bombastically silly that sounds.
so I don't think it's anything like that. I think
Yeah.
this is just garden variety,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Right. It's a
illegal, yeah,
right.
illegal immigrant. They're calling it terrorism. Kind of seems like it
Yeah.
might be. And
Yeah.
I know Trump is mega pissed off at this. Okay, so he's getting turned up to a 15 on the whole remigration thing, and I think he has he has the support of all the people on that. Like you laid it out in a way the other day. I'm trying to find the message you sent me, but
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
yeah, it
the
was it was it was basically things are not working as intended in order to oh wait, that's not the right thing. Yeah,
no,
it is.
it is.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's multicultural spaces create conflict. Conflict is a complication. Immigration introduces spaces that are prone to conflict. Immigration is entirely necessary. Stop doing it. And without me having to say it, you summed up more or less what I that's what I believe. I'm a very like binary kind of person. It's like if there's a thing, binary and problem solving. So if there's a thing that's causing a problem, stop doing the thing. And I know there's lots of nuances in there. There's a lot of other stuff to consider, but for me, it's like you know the life of one American to me is more important than the entire Afghan immigrant population in this country.
Right. So I think that, you mentioned a lot of nuances, and I'm with you. Like, if we're figuring out the problem, let's just stop doing the thing that's causing the problem. Now, I don't. I think there's a middle ground, right? So we got the macro issue, something is wrong, and then we got a bunch of little micro issues that are causing the thing to be wrong. And until we can determine how to make the thing right, we just need to remove complicating factors, right? And
Yes.
that's what it is. We just
Yes.
shut that down because it is unnecessary and it causes problems.
Yeah, like I want there to be a neutral solution, but after a radical left solution for 4 years, I think we need a radical right solution for 4 years to kind of bring us back to the middle. And that's really what Trump said in his tweet. He said we got to shut everything down. No more people coming until we fix the country and fix these problems because we can't keep having this. We can't keep having people getting shot, violence against women, rapes. We can't keep having that.
People getting set on fire in subways.
Yes, yeah. Like I always hear people saying, America has bad public transportation, and it's like if we wanted great public transportation, we'd have it, but people wouldn't use it because right now they're afraid of getting shanked in the subway,
Yeah. Yeah.
or they're afraid of uh, defending someone and then being called the aggressor,
Right. Getting sent
like
into a
we
whole
saw with Daniel
courtroom.
Penny.
Yeah. Right. No, it is nightmarish, man. Like, so you mentioned like turning off every 4 years. So I would go a step further. I would say turn it off until you can evidence that it needs to be turned on. Right. So it's, I don't buy off on the argument that we don't have the talent to do the things that we need to do. I don't think that that's true. And I think that if that were true, you'd be talking about bringing in one person from a foreign country, and that would be like sufficient on that topic, right? You'd bring that person, they would educate, uh, and good to go. You would not bring 10,000 people to do some task that's entirely something we can do here. For that matter, something we probably have an educational path specifically designed to teach people to do here, and claim that it was a necessity because we lack the talent.
Spe-
Um,
speaking of that, just on a more general question, because I guess I'm not even entirely sure if I'm like if I'm like a British citizen and I want to immigrate to America. I mean, can I just do that?
no, well, oh, hold on. Let me slow myself down there. My information on this subject is old, old, old.
Okay.
We had at one point when I looked at it a quota. It was a per country quota, and it fluctuated depending on the where of it, right? Like this place can send this many, this place can send this many.
Okay.
Um, and it's been like no matter where you looked, it was off at the time that I investigated it, which is to say, these are not the numbers, but this place gets 10, they had 36, right? This place gets 100, they had 400, whatever it happened to be. Um, but it was a little broken, not everybody come in broken, right? Now
I
it's well, until just a little bit ago, it was everybody come in broken.
Yeah, yeah. I'm speaking strictly on the like fully legal process, no special like if we rewinded 30 years, could I just be like I want to be an American and then start the process as a European citizen?
I think the answer is still no. I'm not 100% on
Okay.
that. We'd have to look it up, but I think that no matter where you were coming from, you only got X many.
Okay, because I know there's several different visas that can be converted eventually into you being a naturalized citizen. I know that much.
Yeah.
Certainly through employment. We see a lot of it with the H-1B right now. We don't have to re-go into that because it's not
No.
super relevant right now. But yeah, there's a bunch of different like Elon Musk came over and on a I think like a O1 visa, which was person of exceptional talent.
Well,
And
it's nice to know that it works occasionally.
yeah, there's tons of different visas. The primary one we always hear about is the H-1B because that's just foreigner that's supposedly filling a critical role that there's not enough Americans for, which is obviously bullshit anyway. But
Right. Yeah.
there is also a visa that's like, you're a billionaire business owner, you're going to create a ton of jobs here. Come on over, or like like if Albert Einstein was still alive, he would be admitted to America on an O1 visa.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of employment related ways to get here and stay here. But yeah, I was always just wondering about what if I wasn't doing it through employment? And it sounds like what you said. There's just a quota, and a certain amount of people can do so for various reasons, I guess.
Yeah. Like I said, that is like grossly outdated info. It was like when I looked at it, it was specifically France that I was looking at. It was during a period of time that I was looking at the concept of acculturation, which is I think the bit of it that virtually everybody that's an open border fan misses, and I don't blame them. I don't entirely blame them because when you look at something, you go, "Hey, this feels like a good idea, and it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. We should definitely pursue this, right?" But it's not until you start looking at those details, the potential ramifications of it, that you really go, "Oh, we shouldn't have done that." And then I think like a vast portion of humanity has this like I think maybe all of us have an internal reaction where when you're wrong, you go, "Ow," right? I don't like that, and then you don't want to admit that it happened. Um, it's just that some of us have the capacity to go ahead and go, "Nope, I was wrong," and admit it anyway, and others don't.
So
So,
I just looked it up. I have the answer now. So
oh,
it's a diversity visa program, aka green card lottery, where a limited number of immigrant visas are randomly awarded each year to people from countries with low rates of immigration to the United States.
okay. So wait,
So
so what does that give us for like the UK as an example?
uh, it doesn't say specifically, but probably it wouldn't give us many if there's a lot of people that are already being admitted to America from the UK.
Got it.
So it's probably the fact that it says low rates of immigration tells me that we're getting not that many people from the UK and a lot of people from like Somalia.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
You know,
Clearly, right?
yeah, like you can just open your eyes wide open and see that.
It's like, honestly, and that's like the weirdest part of this too is for the entirety of the Biden administration, I would generally it was pretty common for me to run into people that would be like, why are you so worried about a bunch of Hispanics coming in? I'm like, dude, that's not who's coming. Like the fact that they're walking through that door does not imply that is who that is. Like you gotta check out any news report on this thing. These are people crossing that chunk of land to get here, not people from that chunk of land getting here.
And the only we're sort of veering here, but it's fine. It's like people are primarily immigrating here, in my opinion, because of benefits.
Yeah.
And it's the same as the UK. There's a reason that people from Africa, like Northern Africa, travel, you know, through a bunch of awful countries into like Turkey, which is a relatively okay country if you're coming from like Syria, or Libya. They go through there, they go through, you know, Serbia or whatever else is in the way, and then they get to the UK and they're like, we need asylum. We're getting persecuted in Syria. And it's like, why the fuck didn't you stop in Turkey?
Right. Which, and I could be wrong here. I'm pretty sure they're like some countries have asylum processes that legally require you to stop. At the first place they can offer you asylum. You don't get to keep marching.
Yeah, and generally that country is literally the one that borders the one you don't like. unless you're in like unless you're in like Iran or Afghanistan where you're just surrounded by more idiots.
Right.
Pre- Pretty much, if you just cross the border into literally any other country, your persecution ends.
Yep. You're asylum.
Yeah, you're asylum. Like you're fine. If if Venezuela sucks, go to Panama.
Right.
Like you're good. You don't have to
Yep.
keep traveling to America.
Nope.
You're only doing that because of the benefits.
Yeah. Which is, like this is I've kind of like I'm going to get into stupid territory here. I apologize, but I've looked at some of this stuff prior, like, and these are all bad ideas that need a great deal of contemplation before they really get anywhere, or before they're even rational, really, right? But if like you make the country less appealing, right? Like that's the first way to stop the serious immigration is just to change the rules to where that's great, you're here, you get nothing, right? And then the other way to do it is to create appealing spaces elsewhere. And this is more a concept for a point when we actually were receiving a heavier influx from like Mexico as an example. Like, man, we got plenty of money. You could industrialize just by dumping American capital and American business into like northern Mexico. You could make that place appealing enough to just stop.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that's the one that would take significantly more critical thought than ever were given it. But it was during the build a wall time frame. Like people were like build a wall, right? Like what does that mean? Like there's the very literal wall, and then there's the economic wall, and then there's the technological wall, and then there's the like the social wall. There's a lot of ways to do it, and I think that's kind of what I was looking at when I started kind of poking around with the idea of, man, just create some business down there, right? Like make the place nicer, give them a reason not to have weird criminality going on in that area.
It's funny. This all links to the whole people leftists usually say that they say America's not great, America sucks, America's awful, I'm moving, I'm leaving, Europe's laughing at us. It's like, then why is everybody trying to come here?
Yeah,
If this place sucks so bad, why is everybody trying to come here? Why are
yeah,
people risking their lives to try to get here? Why are people defrauding the system to get here if this place sucks so bad?
yeah.
And I also saw, people are talking trash about Somalia with good reason. And, someone cherry picked like one video from Somalia and they're like, look how great this place looks. And it's like, then go live there.
Yeah,
Like go live there. If it's
yeah,
so awesome and it's so superior to America, a country that has contributed quite literally nothing to the world, then go live there.
yeah. And
Like goodbye.
it's like we're using the U.S. is because that's where we are, right? But really, it's broader than that. It's the world has the Western world has this weird problem, this internal problem where it's going, Western ideals suck and they're ruining the world, so we should do away with them by importing people that use a different set of ideals, a different set of morals to govern their existence. And then we're getting this massive immigration, not just in the U.S., but Great Britain is dealing with it, Canada is dealing with it, Western civilizations are dealing with it. So where is the good stuff? Western civilizations, and that's the thing that we're trying to ruin. Thanks, college.
Yeah, last time I checked, there was not a large group of Americans trying to immigrate to Syria.
Nope, nope, not happening. Every once
Like,
in a while, you get that stupid war tourist that's like, I'm going to go fight in Ukraine, or like, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to Afghanistan for a while, and like that pretty much never pans out well.
I love the what is it? It's like the gays for Palestine.
Queers for Palestine, sir.
That's like one of my favorite things because it's like, do you realize that if you show up there with a rainbow flag, they're going to hang you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know. It's fucking magnificent. Like it's magnificent on two fronts too. So the reason I went ahead and made the point to say that it's queers for Palestine is like, man, that whole organization is so on its head anymore. What was it, probably late '90s, we determined that queers was a slur, like like a high level one, right? Like you can't say that shit. And internally they've readopted it because gays isn't inclusive. You can't, it's not inclusive enough for their liking. So they took a slur and added it to their dumbass lexicon.
I am old enough to know, and so are you, back when there was a section on really every social site, and by social I mean like yahoo.com, of the time, where there was just simply the gay and lesbian section.
Yep.
That's it. Simple. How we went from that to what is existing today is just sort of insane
No,
to me.
it's yeah. I know we're way off topic now, but you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's one of my favorite topics. Is like, and I shouldn't say favorite. It's one of the things that I think is more worthy of discussion than we generally afford it these days. Is the fall of the? And maybe we should do a thing on that one of these days. Just the fall of LGB and how it got conquered more or less. I
My
think it's
my my favorite. I think you might have sent me this meme. It was like it's the meme where there's a guy like fishing, and then there's a fishing guy. Like it's a guy fishing and he has a bucket with his fish in it, and then there's another guy fishing who's fishing from his bucket.
oh yeah yeah yeah
And
yeah
it's like the first panel, the main fisherman, his bucket says LG on it.
yep
You know, and
TQI
then
plus.
yeah, and then the second fisherman is the TQ plus fishing from the LG bucket.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean that pretty well sums it up, man. I've been saying recently there's there's some there's some accuracy in that new flag, and that it nothing quite sums up what happened there like them literally printing themselves over the LGB flag.
Yeah, there's so much to say about the LG and all that, and we can definitely, I think, get to that in more depth. Another thing,
Okay.
I want to move on to cost of living, and the specific thing is I read this study. I thought it was interesting. So you may not be aware of this, but the way they do the poverty level in America, like when it was first conceived, like a long time ago, I think in like the 50s or the 60s, you were in poverty if a household of four, so husband, wife, and two kids, made less than the cost of food times three per year.
What is the cost of food?
So, like whatever your food costed.
Well, right, but I mean that fluctuates, right? Depending on, because I mean that could be a poor person really like caviar and makes
Oh,
like
well, I
my
think
cost
it,
of food.
yeah, it would be the essentials. So, what you need to sustain yourself.
Yeah.
That's
So it's like
that's what they consider to be poverty because they basically said if you're fed, then two times that cost is probably enough to cover everything else. And this would have been back in the day when like a single income was fine, and employers provided your health insurance. Maybe you had to pay like $5 a month.
right, right.
Your car was modest, your home was modest. People in the 60s and 50s were purchasing homes for like $10,000.
I know.
You
Every
know,
once in a while, I'll see the old Sears catalog with the ready order home. It was like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And I mean, I know my father was a machinist, and I think he was only making like $4 an hour, or five back in the 60s. Obviously that's much more today, but that was enough to cover everything, at least
yeah,
for my family. So, but where I'm going with this is the whole point of this study. It basically showed that you know the poverty calculation doesn't work anymore today because food is no longer one third of the expenses.
yeah.
Things like
There's not even close.
not even close. Like food is a just a nut hair of the overall cost to live now. The primary drivers are uh, healthcare, which most employers are not covering 100% anymore.
Oh no. Yeah.
And in some cases, you got to self-pay, such as
Yeah.
myself, and
Yeah.
that's very expensive. The second is childcare, okay, which was not even an industry until 30 years ago. Like it wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
You know, women didn't work. They stayed home with the kids and they raised a family, and families are much bigger. You know, like I don't know about you, but my father's a family of seven, and my mom is a family of four, you know, and it's just me, right?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
know, I am my parents' only kid, and you know, my kid is, you know, my wife and I's only kid. So where I'm going with this, really, I'll just get to the point, is because the poverty level hasn't been adjusted appropriately, you are actually punished for working more. Meaning, when you get even a slightly decent job, decent by a measure of poverty, meaning you get a job that pays like 40K a year. Okay, the moment you get a job that pays 40K a year, you're already like way above the poverty level, even though you're still deep in poverty. Now, what this means is the government doesn't help you at all. And when they don't help you, you start to wonder, why did I take this 40K job? It's like you got $40,000 in new income only to incur $40,000 more in new costs. You know, because you're cut out from the subsidies and you're cut out from all that. And so people are making the decision, they're saying, well, I can just not work and make the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So the last thing you just said there has been a thing that people have said for, just not work and make the same. Having the path laid out like that makes it track a lot better.
it's all based on the poverty level. Like this study goes on to show that the poverty level in America is closer to 100,000 a year.
Gross. Well, gross when you stop to think about it.
Yeah, it's like if you make under 100,000 a year, you're better off not working. And once you break like the 100K point, or even like 80K, you know, then because there's also some variance. You know, you can live in an area that's cheaper cost of living. You know, this is based on the average. You know, like the area I live is super cheap. So, you know, I could make a lot less and
Yeah.
it would still feel fine. But if you live in like the average place across America, it's around like 80 to 100K. That's the real poverty level for a family of four, where you know you can get by and be kind of okay. But like if you're making 100K, you qualify for pretty much nothing. Like the government is going to make sure people don't starve. For better or worse, we can
Right.
argue whether
Right.
that's, yeah, whether that's correct or not. But the fact is if you're ultra poor, unemployed, or you got kids, you're gonna get free healthcare, you're gonna get SNAP, you're gonna get all this, and you're good. You know, you're good to go. You're gonna survive. You're not gonna die. But if you try to get into the marketplace, they're just gonna yank all that. And it's almost I'm gonna get to the final point now. I'm just wondering if that's the way the government wants it designed. Like, why haven't they upgraded what it means to be in poverty? Because if they did, you know, if they said, okay, well, poverty is not 30K, poverty is 70K, then that would encourage people to get into the marketplace because they would be making themselves more money. And
Wherein do we find this definition of poverty? Where is it codified?
it's just a number. It's just a number right now. They just say if you're a family of four and making less than X dollars, I'll just look it up real quick. So 2025 poverty level. So right now, if you're a family of four, if you make less than $32,150 a year, you're considered to be in poverty.
How much was it?
32K.
Oh, yeah, no, that's crazy low. Like
I'd argue that you're in poverty under 50K with a family of four, or even a higher value. And that's what I'm getting at, is because like the poverty level roughly is where the benefits start.
yeah,
And if they start too early, then it disincentivizes you from ever working
Right.
because, as your income level increases, your benefits decrease. And it's pointless. And so people are incentivized to stay home. And I think that's a problem.
No, for sure. It's definitely, and I'm like trying to really wrap my head around this in because like I think that if I were forced to look back and determine when people in mass just went, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. It was the COVID time frame. Like people stopped working and just didn't go back. Is how it feels.
So COVID also introduced, I mean, they were giving quote unquote unemployment. I mean, it was really they were keeping you home, right?
Right.
So they were paying additional money monthly. And I watched this with my own eyes. So, I have one client that I do work for locally, and he had a bunch of employees quit because they just wanted to get the free money and do nothing.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, I mean, the system's broken if they're doing that.
Yes.
It should never be a benefit to quit your job.
Definitely.
If it is, something's broken.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't like. I wish I had something to add here, man. But I this is
Well, it's this all ties to, the topic is cost of living. So, this all ties to everything's so expensive,
yeah.
and they they're not updating what poverty means. And it's like, how how do you get ahead? How do you get ahead in this circumstance? Where and maybe there is nothing to add. Maybe that's just the way it is. Maybe I'm just stating the obvious, and that's just all there is to it.
What?
And the overall conclusion maybe is just that it's got to be fixed, and like quickly.
Yeah. I think like I don't know, like a moment for me because it's hard to look at this from our position. So I don't have any anecdotal, direct, like personal lived things to really relate this to, right? Because like from as a young lad, I got introduced to the concept of hard work and do this and here's the payoff kind of stuff, right? As did everyone from my generation, and I took that to heart and I just kind of ran with it, and like I was pretty move shoot move in my youth, right? I didn't have a plan, but I just ever advancing, right? Just take what you have, build from it, and move on to the next thing. And I remember getting to a milestone, and I want to get into exact numbers here, but I remember getting to a milestone where I was like, man, as a child, this was like you wouldn't even think of it, right? This was like the number that people would throw out is like, man, that's like way too much money to even get pitched in a meeting, right? Um, and then I saw some internet thought talking to a street interviewer about what her ideal man is, and it was like, well, he's got to have a seven-figure earner, and like I had to rewind it. I was like, did you say seven? Like, this is some random street hoe. How bizarre. Um,
They have a
so maybe,
tool. They have a tool that you can type in. You can be like, I want 6 feet or taller. I want over 120K a year. I want not average weight. I want him to have a brother or something, and it'll spit out. It'll be like, well, you have a 1 in 5 million chance of meeting this person.
Okay, I didn't know about that, but that's kind of wonderful. But I went through that whole path just to say, like, if the bar from my youth was like this six-figure spot, and now some random chick, like, that's like fresh out of college, wandering around drunk in New Orleans in her dumb miniskirt, is talking to street interviewers about trying to find her a seven-figure man. Like, man, that's a wild change to what was considered like great when I was a kid is now this like I mean shit, you were just discussing it as like a conceivable poverty line, right? Like that's crazy.
Well, that sounds more like gold digging than anything. But
Oh, of course, of
the
course.
the
But
I
that's
mean,
what it was when
even
I was a kid too, right? That's what it was when I
yeah.
was a child. Was
No,
people?
everything is you know when I was younger, and do you remember that song, If I Had $1 Million?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so I remember thinking to myself, if I suddenly had $1 million, I could just quit forever, and this is how I would spend it over the next 60 years.
Right.
And
Yeah.
now it's like if I had $1 million, shit's gonna be gone in like 6 years.
Right. You'd be set for under a decade.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's crazy. They've like the dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to, and I really, the original topic here was cost of living, and I just think to myself, I ask my wife sometimes, like, how do people do it right now? Um, I don't know. That same company that I work with that had a bunch of people quit for the COVID money. I mean, all those people there don't make that much. They make like maybe between 18 and $22 an hour, something like that.
Sure.
And I don't know how does that do anything? And it has to just be that they're getting tons of stuff from the government.
Wouldn't your wouldn't your self-pay insurance cost more than what they're defining as poverty?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
my
one
my
bill. That's one bill.
my self-pay insurance next year is going to be $32,500. Um however, I did find an employer to pay that for me, so I won't have to pay that next year. But
Oh, did you really?
yeah.
That's
Uh,
exciting.
yeah, so that's taken care of, but had I not done anything, $32,000 per year. So yeah, like my health insurance costs more than, oh, let's put it this way. So, if I made like 20K a year instead of what I do now, then I would get free healthcare,
Yeah.
right? I would save myself $32,000 a year. And it's like I know there's some people out there doing the math on that. They're saying, okay, well, I can either have this 70K a year job or whatever and pay $4,000 a year for healthcare, or I can have this $20,000 a year job and pay zero.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 70K a year and pay 25,000 a year, or have this 30K job and pay zero.
Yeah. And get
And
free
I and
groceries.
I know they're sitting there thinking, well, I mean, I got to work 40 hours for that a week. Do I really care about the additional 5 to 10K I would get as a difference?
Right.
Well, no. Let's just leave my job and get it all for free.
Yeah.
And although I think that's very stupid, and I wish people didn't have that option, I also understand why they're doing it
For sure.
because everything is so expensive. I get it. I get why people are gaming the system in that way.
If we get back to a point where the ship is right, all those guys are going to have a giant hole in their resume to explain.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, why are you unemployed for 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really be like, oh, because there was a lot of free money there.
No. No. No.
You can't do
Yeah.
that because they're gonna be like, all right, interview's over, goodbye.
Yeah. Pro
I mean,
tip.
I wouldn't hire someone like that.
No.
That is like a mega red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta find yourself a business that just went under and claim you were like a mid-level management person. Nobody's going to check. You'll be okay.
I would never do that. If I had the option to work for 50K a year or work for 20K a year and get 30K for free, but I didn't, or I'm sorry, not work and get the money for free, I wouldn't actually take it
No.
because
Well,
I understand the long-term harm of that,
yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't take
and I understand that I'm just weighing down a system. And I'm also not the kind of person that's interested in generational welfare or just getting handouts for 50 years. And you're the same way. You're not like that either. But I think there's a lot of people who, there's some people who they want to be doing that. Like they feel as if they're entitled to such a lifestyle. But then there's also people who are just being, I'm using quotey fingers here, they're being smart.
Yeah.
Or they think they're being smart
Yeah.
by briefly gaming the system to their own detriment, whether they realize it or not.
Right. I did find the first concrete example because, like last time we talked about this, you talked about the idea of people that were on generational welfare. Like eventually it just becomes like a like a passed down trait almost. And I found a person saying exactly that during the SNAP conversation where it looked like the benefits weren't coming. It was like, oh, my parents were on this, and and their grandparents before them. It's how I was raised. I was like, oh no, I I hope this isn't true, but it feels a little true.
You got to carve your own path. It's even if you were raised like that, that doesn't mean
No, it's not a
like.
justification by any means. No.
And also, that's the other thing is these handouts. They don't protect you like when you're 65.
Mm,
You know,
it's a
because
different set of
if
handout.
if if you weren't working, you definitely don't have a 401k. Okay, you're not getting any Social Security because you haven't paid in. There's probably some Social Security that you can qualify for, but you're not getting the main one that a lot of people get. And it's like, what are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do? So,
Get a job.
yeah, good job. Yeah. Okay, I want to shift to Massie. So they're still feuding. I don't know if you saw Marjorie Taylor Greene. She resigned, or she's resigning,
Yeah, I heard.
effective January 1, and it's. I understand why she did it. It feels a little bit like a cop out. Just because Trump says he's going to fund a primary challenger does not mean you're going to lose. Okay, especially the way he's currently operating.
Right. Yeah, I don't. I
Like because he did that to Massie. There's a guy who's trying to go against Massie in the primaries, and he's polling like 40 points behind him,
yeah, I.
which is shocked Pikachu face, right? It's
Or you're more likely to win, honestly.
but the point is like MAGA, and I'm doing quotey fingers because this is what I told my wife. I said I'm still MAGA, the real one.
Right.
Okay, the one that actually wants to make America great again, not the one that wants to do a bunch of stuff that's not pro America. And you know, I hate that these people are being pushed out of Congress. There's I have a meme. I sent it to you already. I'm gonna put it up on the screen now. Make a little note here for myself. Uh yeah, it's Trump, Federal Reserve sucks. Massie. Okay, let's abolish it. Trump, no.
Yep.
Trump, Department of Education sucks. Massie. Okay, let's abolish it. Trump, no. Trump, IRS sucks. Massie. Okay, let's abolish it. Trump, no. MAGA. Why doesn't Massie do anything?
Yep. Yeah, it's confounding, man. I don't. I mean, I think that every time we reach this point, the answer is going to be the same. He's got his cult of personality, and his cult of personality is just going to go, "Yep, Trump is right, regardless." Um, and I don't know how long. I don't know how long that works for. How long that carries him for before people start to, take note of the fact that, I mean, he's just typical conservative governance at this point, right? He's just not following through on stuff.
No, no, he's not.
And
He's not. I saw another thing. It was a like a cycle meme, with the arrows, and it was like Democrats win on vibes, and then they fail to deliver, and then Republicans win on backlash, and then they fail to deliver. And so that's the four panels of the cycle.
yep, yeah,
And
it's gross and
yeah,
fair.
yeah, I mean, they say, why doesn't Massey do anything? I mean, at the end of the day, okay, Massey is one of 435 representatives. There's not a ton he can do individually.
Right, unilaterally.
You know, he has no ability. Although he did manage to get the Epstein thing up.
Oh, yeah.
That's all his doing. The
Yeah.
uh, the Epstein Transparency Act, but it's like he on his own can't do anything. He needs people like the Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, and the Rand Paul in the Senate, and a bunch of other people who are still actually MAGA guys, conservatives, real conservatives, not the conservatives who say, well, we're just going to borrow 3 trillion instead of the Democrats 4 trillion.
Right.
Like, that's not real conservatism, and anybody calling themselves a conservative who's voting for multi-trillion-dollar budget deficits is not a conservative.
That's a quick sidebar here. Um, People use words wrong all the time, right? So like people will
Yes.
call, and I think it's bad. Yeah, so people will say owning the libs when they're talking about taking shots at leftists, and a liberal is not a leftist. Like that's not the same thing. A
No.
conservative is not an alt right person. That's not the same thing, right? But we get into this space where we just look at them all the same, and that's a screw up because I think what we've got right now is not necessarily conservative governance. It's close to something that looks like kind of socially liberal governance with like a right leaning tinge to it, maybe, right? Like it's certainly not fiscal conservatism, and it's not
No.
just general conservatism. And it's honestly not alt right either. Like, the implication there being that it wants to, do what they're accusing it of doing, like handsmaid tailing people and whatnot. Um, but whatever it is, to try to people will try to tie. Oh, look at these dirty conservatives, right? That's not what you're looking at, buddy. That's not what they are.
No, they're not. Not even close.
Yeah,
Not even close. There's I mean, the root word of conservative is conserve.
yeah,
Like you can't be a conservative if you're anti-conservation. And spending $3 trillion when we're $38 trillion in debt is like the antithesis of conserving. It's
yeah.
splurging. It's actually it's liberalism. You're being a liberal with the money.
Right. Yeah. People will point back to old Bill Clinton as being the last guy that had a balanced checkbook, and they're not wrong. But that's also not great because I mean that doesn't do anything to fix the problem. It just stops the problem from growing. Right. You need somebody that does a little bit more than that. Right. It needs to make money, not lose money.
Yes, it's got to like really the budget should be at most 90% of the revenue. Until such time that the debt falls. And I do recognize that like overall debt is less important than debt as a percentage of GDP.
Sure.
Like that's definitely important. If you're in Venezuela with 800% debt to GDP, even though you're not $38 trillion in debt, that is not that is way worse than 38 trillion. And what I don't know what our debt to GDP. It's like what, like 120 something,
Yeah, we discussed this once, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head either. But I mean, like setting that point aside for a second.
125.
Yeah, you can have you can have a debt or surplus, and one of those is obviously better. And positioned as we are, we should be more than capable of carrying surplus,
Yes.
and we do not.
I'm also concerned that there's a lot of bubbles as well, and our GDP is not as high as it seems. I also think the whole wave of like AI everything is inflating that even higher because all of a sudden we have like multi-trillion-dollar companies, whereas I remember when it was only Apple. Like Apple became, I think, the first trillion-dollar company in the not so recent memory.
Yeah, I did not know that, but that sounds right.
Yeah, and we have Nvidia now. Nvidia is now worth, their market cap right now is $4.3 trillion. It was 5 point something. They were the first company to hit $5 trillion.
Wild.
And it's like, okay, well, if our GDP is 45 trillion and Nvidia is 11% of that and it's all AI, like is
Right.
I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is our debt to GDP probably isn't 125%. It's probably like 200% if you,
Well, yeah. Right. If you take the fluff out, right?
yeah.
And I haven't looked super hard at this. You probably know though. I have heard that of all AI products at this point, none of them turn profit.
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
And like at that point, I mean, fluff might not even be the right word, right? It's a like it's not like a it's not a lie exactly. It's unrealized potential.
It is, well, I mean, they're hoping for eventual widespread adoption. There's also a lot of like wealth transfer, like like fake economic activity. I'll give you one example. OpenAI is buying $300 billion of GPUs from Nvidia. Nvidia is buying $300 billion worth of stuff from Oracle, and Oracle is buying $300 billion worth of AI products from OpenAI. And it's like, okay, so $900 billion in economic activity where people just sort of traded money around.
Yeah, just shuffled the cards.
Yeah, it's like that's not real. Yeah, that's economic activity, but that's not like GDP growth. You didn't spend $10 on a thing to make it worth 50.
Right,
You just spent $10 on something, and then they spent $10 on something, and then you just got that $10 back. You
right,
didn't
right.
create anything new. It's fake economic activity, and it just goes back to my theory that it's our GDP is probably lower than
Yep.
it seems.
Yeah, that all sounds very unhealthy.
But you're absolutely right. Like AI is very expensive. Every time you go on Grok Imagine and create a picture or create an image, I'm sorry, create a video from an image. I mean, it's like 35 cents in compute.
No shit.
Yes. So, like, I mean, if every time you write something in the chat GPT, it's probably 10 cents.
Oh man, I'm costing some people some money.
Yes. So if you think about it, if you're only paying, well, a lot of it's free, but even if you're paying the $20 a month, I mean, you're burning up well in excess of $20 a month in compute, especially if you're doing image generation. Like that's incredibly costly. And so
Yeah.
you're absolutely right that now I want to clarify that when I say AI companies, I'm talking about chatbots. I'm talking about
Right,
this
right.
this is the Anthropic, this is OpenAI, this is that. I'm not referring to like Tesla FSD.
Sure.
That's completely different. I'm talking about a generative AI.
Right.
Very
Like
expensive.
yeah, there's that huge difference between like so I've got a pair of a headset. I got a headset that translates language right as I talk, and that's AI being leveraged to a task, but it is not in itself. It's not like they have their own AI, right?
Right.
So I would assume that that's a different story. Probably those places are profitable.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's generative AI and there's I call it real world AI. That's like AI applied to solve real world problems, such as like translation. But yeah, when you're generating text and images, which is 99% of the AI application, it is extremely costly and not profitable.
Yeah.
And it may result in the destruction of some of these companies.
Oh, I'm sure, right? Like this has to be one of those things where I will end up with a console wars situation where there's like too many of them flooding the market, and then two of them survive.
Yes, it's definitely not sustainable. I'll tell you that much. Definitely not sustainable.
Well, let's see who pulls through.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're pretty much at the end. Unless you have any additional thoughts.
Well, I know you said like a maybe touch on it thing, and I know that we're burning through a lot of time here, but you want to touch on the Epstein release, not in any substantial way. Just what's your
I,
bet? Do we get one big black sheet of paper, or do we get a list with literally every name in the United States on it?
yes, that's a good question. That's a good question. So you probably already know I am not a fan of Pam Bondi. I think she is failing miserably at everything. She's a
Yeah,
horrible pick, which sucks because I
which
liked
is
her.
surprising,
But
right? She seemed like she was going to be great.
I have a feeling that they have 30 days to release it. This was maybe 18 days ago. So they got about a week and a half
Yeah,
left, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
I have a feeling that we're going to receive a heavily redacted set of files that's going to ultimately not be that useful.
Yep.
And I don't think it's going to reveal anything, really anything additional. I don't think people are going to look at it and then the arrests are going to start flowing, which is really what I want. I just want to see one pedophile put in handcuffs, please.
Right.
Just one.
Yeah, just one. And
Just one.
pick one, really.
Yeah,
Like,
it would go a long way. It would go a long way to perp walk just one fucking pedophile
right.
from
Right.
the Epstein list. Just one, please.
Which doesn't feel like a lot to ask, honestly.
Yeah, that it's a really low bar
Yeah.
considering all the stuff that was going on there that we know about. I would say one is a decently low bar to me.
Yeah. I think that, some very optimistic Democratic congresswoman gave us kind of a preview of what we're going to see happen. And that's the lady that read off a list of names of Republicans that had received donations from Jeffrey Epstein without verifying that it was the right Jeffrey Epstein, and therefore thereby gave us a list of names that meant absolutely nothing. And
Mm,
I think that that's what we're going to get, right? We're going to get a list of names that were in the documents that are so lacking context that everyone will be able to point fingers at everyone and go, "Well, your name was in there, right?" And then it will amount to nothing. Alternatively, we'll get all the context and no names because everyone will be blacked out.
yeah. My favorite recent thing, and this will be my final thought. My favorite recent thing about the Epstein stuff is some like email came out where Jeffrey Epstein was like, Trump is such a bad man. He's the worst person in the world. He's awful, this and that. And
Yep.
the Democrats like handle, the Democrats Twitter account posted that, and
Yep.
they're like, huh, even Jeffrey Epstein thinks this about Trump. And it's like you realize that's not the
Right.
dunk you think it is.
I know, man. It's like bad reviews from bad people are good reviews.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing. If there's one person in the world that I want to hate me and think I'm awful, it's
Yeah, it's
Jeffrey
the
Epstein.
terrorist. Yeah.
Yeah, like is the word of a pedophile really in force at all? I guess if you're a Democrat, then
Yeah.
then that really goes a long way.
Yeah. If you're getting glowing reviews from that guy, you should evaluate your fucking life.
Yep. So that's more of a indictment on himself than Trump. So
Yeah.
cool. Okay, well, I think we're
All right.
good. I'm gonna wrap up the show and catch everybody next week.
Cool, buddy. Talk to you later.
All right, have a good one. Bye. Thanks a lot for watching the Takedown with Brian and Jesse. We will see you on a future video next week. See you later for now.